In this e-world now, where everything has become EEE, why GST should also be left behind. And for that e-commerce transaction under the GST regime, we have none other than one of our past president and a stalwart, Sri Rajat Talati. And for that, I would request Sunil Joshi to briefly introduce Sri Rajat Talati.
Good afternoon, respected President, dignitaries on the dais and off the dais. It has been privilege and pleasure to introduce Sri Rajat Talati. My qualification BCom, LLB, FCA, DBF, ICF, AI. He has completed his CA in 1986 and joined father and brothers as a partner in his practice in name of Talati and Company Chartered Accountants. He has a concentrated practice on the sales tax side, presently advising member of leading Indian and foreign companies in the sales tax matter as a retainer. He was the president of our Esteem Association, STPM, for the year 2004-2005. He was associate editor of Sales Tax Review published by STPM in the year 1996 and 1997. He co-authored the publication A Guide to VAT Audit published by WRC of ICAI. He has successfully conducted coaching classes for the juniors in the profession as a convener of this committee of STPM. It has been a privilege for me that I was also one of the students in his coaching classes. He has contributed articles and regular columns in the Sales Tax Review, Bulletin of All India Federation of Tax Practitioners. He has done research project on incidence of sales tax on plastic industry in various states of India. He was a member of research committee of ICAI New Delhi. He has a hobby, he is a nature lover and has taken various tracks and upper Himalayas and track Holy Kailash and Manas Sarovar. With this brief introduction, I present before you Shri Rajat Talati. I request Pradeep Bhai Kapadia to give a memento as a mark of our love and affection, sir. Now I request Rajat Bhai to take the charge of the session and show us, as his name indicates, silver line in the GST. Thank you.
Good afternoon, friends. At the outset, I must thank the association for giving me yet another opportunity to share my views on, now GST. We have been talking about sales all these years. Friends, electronic commerce is not new to Indian businesses. However, electronic commerce has been given special treatment under the GST legislation. So what I am going to talk today is take you through the basic concept as we have been understanding it under the old regime of sales tax as also service tax laws. Then what are the special provisions we have under the model GST law, we call it MGL, the definitions which govern these provisions and the TCS provision that is provided. So this is how the entire discussion is going to be for the next 1 hour that I have been provided for. Friends, I am happy to mark and observe that we are ahead of time. Now, but we should not leave behind in studying the GST law, so we should be also ahead in time in studying, analyzing GST law and its implication, which will not only help us to sharpen our skills for the professional work that we are going to do, but at the same time we should also be having an edge over others, and we can advise our clients about the impact that is going to have on their businesses, the financial implications, the business model in terms of the supply chain, in terms of the logistics, distribution, financial impact, as also the information technology the companies would have. Now the impact could go on also in terms of the staffing requirement, the staff training, etc., etc. So let's not be behind this particular thing, let's be ahead of schedule for that as well. Friends, up till now, electronic commerce, for the sales tax laws, traditionally we have been talking about the appropriate state. Which state is going to tax this transaction? What is going to be the taxable event? And we would always be governed by the provisions of Sales of Goods Act, the transfer of property, And we will be talking about right to use goods, especially for the software, etc., or the downloading of electronic music or downloading of say ringtones, etc. Ultimately we would be talking about cycles of sale. Now these were the broad parameters under which we would draw a matrix and find whether it is an interstate sale or a local sale, and how the taxation would take place in the traditional sales tax laws or the VAT laws. If we were talking about the service tax, friends, these two slides are not there in the one which is shared with you. Let it be, it's not going to be something which is unique to my presentation. That's fine. Today morning I had time, so I could update the presentation. Now for the e-commerce, the present service tax legislation provides for the provision of services, recipient of the service and the provider of the service. The place of service provision for place of provision of service rules. Then we have point of taxation rules, we have valuation rules, as also we are looking at the SANVAT rules to finally decide the impact of the e-commerce transaction. Now all these things would decide today what is the place of service, who is the recipient of the service, whether he is entitled to SANVAT credits, etc., etc. Now all these things we have to unlearn and then relearn. Friend, when we want to unlearn something and relearn, it requires extra efforts. So my endeavor would be to take you through those provisions where we have special provisions under the GST regime. Section 43B, in fact the entire chapter is designed to discuss about the taxability of e-commerce transaction. It starts with various definitions. Friends, this is a reproduction of the definition. However, I have highlighted certain words, terms which are used in this, and then we will go into analyze these terms further. Electronic commerce shall mean the supply or receipt of goods and services. So this is talking about both supply of goods and services. This has relevance, that is why there is emphasis provided here. Or transmitting the funds or data on an electronic network, primarily the internet, by using any of the applications that rely on the internet, like but not limited to email, etc., etc., whether or not the ultimate delivery of the goods and or services is done by the operator. Now what are we going to say? The definition of electronic commerce is very wide. However, it is definitive because it has used the word shall. It talks about receipt of goods and services which is transmitted over electronic network, primarily internet, whether or not the ultimate delivery thereof is by the operator. So it is quite possible that the operator may not have done the delivery. Now what it says, the important part of the definition is there is supply and receipt of goods and services which is on a primarily network. The payment may or may not have been received on online basis, so you can have cash on delivery basis as also. At the same time, the delivery may not be by the operator, by the electronic platform. Now we will talk about electronic platform, we will talk about e-commerce operator, which is also defined separately. Now that means what we are talking about is a facilitator who has provided a platform. Now friends, I cannot help but use these words interchangeably because we will require to use these words again when we go through the definition of electronic operator or at the same time aggregator, wherein there is a platform, electronic platform, whereby the information is provided about goods and services over an electronic platform, where the funds may not be transferred online, so you can have cash on delivery, and the delivery, whether rendition of service or whether the delivery of goods, may not be by the operator. So it is quite possible a supplier of goods may offer his goods on somebody else's website, and he may effect the delivery of the goods, he may provide the services himself, but still that transaction will be covered by the broader definition of e-commerce. Small issue here, does the tele-shopping fall under the term electronic network? Now electronic network I go back to the definition or whatever it is mentioned. Electronic network, primarily the internet, by using any of the applications that rely on the internet, like but not limited to email, instant messaging, shopping carts, web services, universal description, discovery and integration UDDI, file transfer protocol, and electronic data inter-exchange. Now, what I am trying to say is, he talks about primarily internet. In case of a tele shopping, nowadays we have electronic media like television on which the products are displayed. At the same time, these companies do have their own platforms where these goods are also offered again. You keep on receiving emails if you have registered yourself on these sites, and then the goods or services are promoted. So if that be the case, would you include even tele shopping as a broader term to be the part of electronic network? Appears to me, yes, it would. Now, why is this significant? Because when we go about the registration portion, we go about the other provision, this will make sense. Section 43BE provides another definition. Electronic commerce operator shall include, once again a definitive definition, every person. They are not talking about taxable person, they are not taxable, they are talking about registered dealer sort of our understanding. They are talking about every person who directly or indirectly owns, operates or manages. He may not be owner of the electronic platform, he may be simply operating an electronic platform, or he may be just a manager managing the electronic platform, that is engaged in facilitating the supply of any goods and or services, or in providing any information or any other services incidental to or in connection therewith, but shall not include. Now we are talking about first part. I will read the second part little later. One who owns, operates or manages an electronic platform which facilitates supply of goods and services is a electronic commerce operator, e-commerce operator in simple terms. However, this will not include, shall not include persons engaged in supply of such goods and or services on their own behalf. So if I am having my own website on which I promote my own goods, in that case I am not covered by the term electronic commerce operator. This is what is long and short of it. Let's analyze the provision a little further in a tabulated manner. One who owns, operates or manages. All three terms are either or. So I could be either of it. An electronic platform which facilitates supply of any goods or services, or providing information or other incidental services. What is information? Information could be information retrieval system, whereby on subscription I can get information like what we call just dial. Majority of the information is not paid for, which is gratuitous. However, wherever there is a subscription model, I pay for the subscription, I get the facility to download the say judgment, e-Pandit. Now all these things are facilitating provision of information or other incidental services. Now what are the other incidental services which are facilitated? Electronic commerce operator who is engaged in facilitating supply of any goods and or services, or in providing any information or any other services incidental to or in connection with. That means even the logistics services, the packing services, warehousing services, everything which the electronic platform provides will also be covered for the purposes of the broader term called electronic commerce operator. So there is a platform, let us say Amazon.com, which has engaged ABC company for